Hello, welcome to Wednesday Night Bible Study. I hope you guys are having a good week so far, enjoying the sunshine for at least today, though it was also snowing a couple days ago, so I don't know what the weather's doing. I hope you had a good Mother's Day. I hope you're enjoying Code Yellow. That's exciting. We're finally allowed to go to places other than the grocery store, so that's exciting. I hope you guys are looking forward to gradually, hopefully, phasing back into real life. I know I am. And that's actually what inspired today's lesson. So let's open up in prayer and then get into it. Dear God, thank you for today. Thank you for the fact that we're now able to go out and see more people, spend time together, open up our doors to different activities and opportunities. God, I pray that you would bless us as we move forward, help us to remain safe and cautious while still being able to work on furthering your kingdom and reaching out to others. God, we thank you for the opportunity we have with things like YouTube, and I pray that you would just continue to bless us and guide us as we move forward. In your precious and holy name we pray. Amen. So this evening's passage is going to be in Genesis chapter 8. I was thinking about this whole quarantine thing and how it's going out in stages and how it could take forever or how it could be like a month and we don't really know what's going on. And that made me think about Noah. Oftentimes we think, oh yeah, woo, it's a little old guy with a big long beard and a gazillion animals in a boat for 40 days and 40 nights, a month and a half. All right, okay, cool. But when we actually look into the story, we see that he was on that boat for months and months and months. And actually, they were stranded on top of a mountain for a while. And it looked like they were going to be able to get out, but they sent out birds. And so we're going to look at that passage and kind of talk about how that plays out with us. So, Genesis chapter 8, starting in verse 3. The water receded steadily from the earth. At the end of the 150 days, the water had gone down, and on the 17th day of the 7th month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. The waters continued to recede until the 10th month, and on the first day of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains became visible. After 40 days, Noah opened a window he had made in the ark and sent out a raven, and it kept flying back and forth until the water had dried up from the earth. Then he sent out a dove to see if water had receded from the surface of the ground. But the dove could find nowhere to perch, and there was water all over the surface of the earth. So it returned to Noah in the ark. He reached out his hand and took the dove and brought it back to himself in the ark. He waited 7 more days and again sent out the dove from the ark. When the dove returned to him in the evening, there in its beak was a freshly plucked olive leaf. Then Noah knew that the water had receded from the earth. He waited 7 more days and sent the dove out again, but this time it did not return to him. So looking at this, I am assuming once the boat stopped rocking and it was sitting on top of the mountain, that Noah and his family were excited. The boat had stopped. Maybe they could finally get out of this big old wooden boat full of stinky animals and to be able to have some personal space. And I'm sure none of you know what that's like at all whatsoever, having been stranded at your house for the past 2 months. I'm sure none of you are clawing at the walls and trying to come up with any excuse to get out of the house. Obviously, I'm being facetious. I know that I have been going kind of stir crazy. Anne actually commented when I was making some of the goofier kids videos like, oh man, I'm worried about you, which is a valid concern. I am pretty crazy if you hadn't caught on yet. So I hope you enjoy the crazy that I am, because I don't think that's changing, and I think that it was there before quarantine anyway. But I digress. I am sure that they were absolutely chomping at the bit to get out of this boat. I know I would be. And my first question for you guys is, how do you see God preparing you to go back to normal life in this time of waiting? We know that the state has been super vague on all of their guidelines, and they've got the code red and the code yellow and the code green, and there's no real dates on anything because they're kind of just going to play it by ear. And I'm sure that's kind of how Noah felt. He wasn't really sure what to do. He kept sending out birds to see if they would find food, if they would find shelter, or if they were stuck in a murky, muddy, gross, swampy kind of situation and had to wait on the boat longer. So he was waiting and waiting and waiting. Even after the rain had stopped and the water started to subside, he still had to wait. So this must have been a really anxious time for Noah, just like it is for us. So how do you think God is preparing you to go back to normal life while we have to wait here? What kind of lessons do you think he's teaching you right now? Perhaps one of patience, perhaps one of love, perhaps one of making sure that you are being diligent, taking care of yourself and your home and your family. I know that for me, it's been pretty easy to slack off in the afternoons when I'm not at the office because I can't go anywhere. I can't do a whole lot of anything. So other than making sure that the dishes are done and out of the sink, it's easy to just kind of relax. But I should be making sure that I'm taking care of myself, of the pets, that I'm remaining active, that I'm getting things that need to be done. And to not be bogged down by, oh, well, I can't go out, so I guess I'll just sit here. That's not healthy. So, question number 2. Code Yellow feels kind of like what Noah must have felt on the ark. How are you going to handle it if you're stuck on the mountain for a while longer? Thinking about the fact that the state is sort of playing things by ear, if we are stuck in this Code Yellow situation where we can't go fully back to normal life for a while, or if there's an outbreak and we have to go back to Code Red and go back to the 10 people and closing stuff down again, how will you react? How will you handle that? God has everything under control. But recognizing that and surrendering our lives to Him and recognizing that even if it's moved back to Code Red, God is still in control. How are you going to handle that? That's tricky. I know that I don't want to go back to that. I know that I have been chomping at the bit to go back to normal life. Dan looked at me last week and said, I know that you were thinking about heading out to a wedding in a couple of weeks, which got canceled. And I think that you could probably use a vacation, but you can't go anywhere. And we kind of chuckled at that because I haven't used any of my vacation days yet. I wasn't really used to going on vacation as a kid, just the way that things played out with my dad's job and whatnot. So I honestly don't even really know what to do on vacation. I know that might sound goofy, but it's true. So I haven't used any yet. But thinking about that, what if we're stuck in this situation for a while longer? Still can't go out places, still can't really travel, still can't come back to church in the way that we are used to. How are you going to handle that? I know for me it's going to take some prayer, some focus, and probably some humility. I know that for me it's kind of not really prideful, but it's difficult to be by yourself all the time. And it's easy to sort of withdraw and focus on myself instead of focusing on other people because I can't be around other people. But just because I can't be around other people in the same way doesn't mean that I should neglect them and just focus on what I want to do. I need to make sure that I'm reaching out to other people in a good way. So what about you? How's God training you? And how will you deal with it if we keep getting stuck in this loop? My last question is more of a fun one, just to kind of make you smile. It reminds me actually of a story, but I'll tell you a little bit about that after I've asked the question. My last question for you guys isn't even a question. It's more of a challenge. I'm challenging you to write out a list. Noah was quarantined with his sons, their wives, and thousands of animals. Think of a list of animals you're glad you're not quarantined with. Could be lions, could be tigers, could be something smelly. I don't know. whatever you're glad you're not in quarantine with in your house, write down a list of that because it could always be worse, which is the story that I was thinking of. One of my mom's favorite books as a kid was entitled It Could Always Be Worse. And it was about a Polish guy who had a real big family and some farm animals. And he goes to his rabbi and he's like, Rabbi, my house is so noisy and so small and so cramped, and I don't know what to do. The rabbi looked at him, paused for a moment, said, do you have any chickens? He said, well, yeah, I got chickens. And the rabbi said, okay, take the chickens with you into the house. The man was very surprised, but he did it anyway. And he went back to the rabbi and he said, it's even worse. It's louder, the feathers are getting everywhere, and I don't know what to do. I'm going nuts. And the rabbi said, well, do you have a goat? And the guy said, well, yeah, I have a goat. And that repeated. The rabbi had him bring in a goat, and the rabbi had him bring in a cow, and I think a horse as well. And by the time he brought in the last of his farm animals, the guy was like, Rabbi, I'm going absolutely crazy. This is ridiculous. I'm going to lose my mind and run away from home. And the rabbi said, okay, take all of the animals out of the house. And immediately afterwards, the next day, he came back and he said, oh my gosh, Rabbi, there's so much room. It's so quiet. It's so spacious. I love it. Thank you. It was all about perspective. He still had just as many people in his house, but he realized it wasn't as bad as it could have been because he didn't have chickens and a cow stuck inside his house with him. So, just food for thought. What are you glad you're not stuck with in the house? Because it could always be worse. So think about that. Pray about that. Spend some time with your family. Spend some time in the Word. And enjoy the new songs that our worship team came and recorded on Saturday. Have a blessed day.